Landing First Nation participants without their consent. Angel Moore explains.
I think initially it was just really a big shock.
That's Chief Andrea Paul of Pictou Landing First Nation. She is the primary plaintiff in a proposed class action against 2 Nova Scotia researchers. She and 60 other community members allege Dr. Robert Miller and Dr. Sharon Clark took extra scans of their livers for use in a secret study without their consent. According to the court documents, Paul and the other plaintiffs agreed to take part in a 2017 study by the Canadian Alliance for Healthy Hearts and Minds, which involved MRIs. The claim alleges that Miller and Clark were also conducting a liver study of Indigenous people and took liver scans at the same time. According to court documents, Paul found out about the second study when the researchers wanted to publish. Paul met with Miller and Clark in July 2018. They admitted the data was shared at a radiology conference. The claim alleges 2 scans revealed health issues, and the affected participants were not informed.
And then the question that I asked them was, well, did you even notify any participants of any, extreme findings? And they said no.
Paul says she feels violated.
For me, it was really hurtful, right? And it was such an invasion of our privacy.
Lynette Reed is a bioethics professor at Dalhousie University. She can't comment specifically on this case, but says informed consent should occur long before any research is conducted.
There's no such thing as forgetting in this. You have a responsibility to do it, and you do it. And if you don't do it, that's research misconduct.
Clark and Miller were named as defendants, along with Dalhousie University, Nova Scotia Health Authority, and Montreal Heart Institute. 1 year later, the institutions were dropped in an amended claim. Paul's lawyer, Brian Hebert, says the hospital settled.
Well, we're not certain what was approved, like to what extent it was approved, but I think the doctors had the go-ahead. But the information that the Research Ethics Committee had wasn't the full picture, put it that way.
APTN News reached out to Miller and Clark's lawyer, Harry Thurlow, for comment. He said his clients do not have any comment at this time. A hearing is scheduled for next October to see if the case will be certified as a class action. None of the allegations have been proven in court. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Jabuktuk, also known as Halifax.
Thanks for that, Angel. We want to hear what you think about this class action lawsuit alleging secret research into Mi'kmaq people. Here's how you can continue the conversation. So you can send your emails to news@aptn.ca. You can leave a comment on aptnnews.ca. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see all of our latest stories. Well, this is the time of year we often see the best of the human spirit on display as goodwill is spread. But in Sudbury, what some say is a pretty grinchy move by the Public Health Department has shut down some community programs that feed hungry and homeless. Vi's Pantry has been serving up Sunday meals since this past summer to 300 people at a local park until last week when the health department said bah humbug. Joining us now to explain is Vi and David Blount. Vi and David, thanks for joining us. Last time we saw you was under much happier circumstances. You guys had joined us on In Focus earlier this fall to talk about feeding your communities. Hungry, 300 people a week you guys were feeding. Lots of people on the ground in Sudbury who would step up and donate food, either for you to prepare, or they would prepare it at home to bring to feed the community. And then just last week, you got a call from the Grinch.
Yep.
What did they say?
I received a call from the health unit stating that my pantry would be shut down and I needed a kitchen to a certified kitchen to cook in, and what would I say, it's
certified kitchen.
Yeah, certified kitchen, and they told me that other groups were contacted also for the same thing, and they didn't want to for our homeless population to be getting sick because we were cooking from our homes.
And then if we were able to still continue to do it without the kitchen, the certified kitchen, a heavy fine would be imposed on us.
So that leaves you guys scrambling. I mean, this happened just last week. You still had people to feed this past Sunday, yesterday. How did you make it happen?
Well, we were contacted by the Lions Club Sudbury, and they had they have a certified kitchen for us to use for 3 weeks.
So there's a little bit of a Christmas angel watching over you guys, I guess, with the Lions Club of Sudbury. They're good on them for offering you guys a kitchen to use. And this is great, so you've got 3 weeks of that, but then what do you do when that 3 weeks is up?
We have other resources going out there, trying to find us another certified kitchen. We're also going to approach this lady from the Lions Club to see if we could extend it over the 3-week period.
Yeah.
Right now, everything's still up in the air, but we hope it's going to work out.
Well, do you think, I mean, this on one hand, this kind of feels like a kick in the teeth a little bit, but do you feel like, has the community really sort of rallied around you guys with this news, with this, what's gone on with the health unit?
Oh yes, I received message after message after message contacting me about it and asking why, because I am not a business, and
we don't sell our food.
We don't sell our food.
Yeah. Well, I guess no good deed goes unpunished, though, right? You guys have done this.
That's true.
Well, if there's something you would like to say to the community of Sudbury who's watching, to the health unit, you know, we're approaching Christmas here. What's in your heart and on your minds right now?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the community for everything that they've done and the support and stepping up and helping us when we needed it. I want to thank them very much, and a happy holiday, Merry Christmas. As to the health unit, we just need answers as to why, and work with us, not against us, so we could do what we have to do for the community.
Nice. Well, thank you both for joining us. All the best of the season to both of you. You guys are doing such incredible work. The community of Sudbury is lucky to have you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
As Vi said, their health officials told her the concern was that people were eating food that was not prepared in a certified and inspected kitchen, and they were worried that people would get sick. We reached out to Public Health Sudbury. They explained to us in a statement, quote, individuals, when they receive food from a grocery store, a restaurant, or other commercial food establishments, they can be assured that the food is from a facility routinely inspected to ensure the minimum standards for food safety in Ontario. We believe that our most vulnerable deserve that same quality and assurances, they said. They added that they work with numerous soup kitchens in Sudbury and will work with Vi's Pantry or anyone else who wants to feed people, but they just need to make sure that it's done according to food safety rules. Well, it's still in Ontario. Indigenous folks seeking job training or new skills during the pandemic got a boost from one of the world's biggest companies this week. Here's Elena McDougall with more.
Technology giant Google announced it will commit $600,000 to digital training programs provided by ComIT, Empower, and Inspire. Melissa Adams is a NISCA graduate of ComIT's Introduction to Programming course.
I think for me, going into this, I was intimidated just because when you think tech, you don't think middle-aged First Nations woman. But taking these courses, I saw that I could do this, that I could learn, and like, aunties work hard, we can do stuff. So it's pretty awesome and confidence building.
We need to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to take a look back at the stories of the year in British Columbia. It was a busy year in northern British Columbia, starting with an announcement of funding to increase safety along the Highway of Tears. Then this summer, Prince Rupert Indigenous leaders hosted a powerful rally to honor residential school survivors. There were also multiple land defenses around the province over pipelines and old-growth forests. Here's Lee Wilson with a review of the news stories from around BC.
We start 2021 traveling from Terrace to Prince George, BC, along Highway 16. The highway is notorious due to the high numbers of people who have gone missing on the road since the 1970s. Many of the cases being Indigenous women and girls. An announcement came from the federal, provincial governments, and the telecommunications industry. They plan to make it safer with cell phone coverage on 100% of the route by 2022. Longtime MMIWG advocate Mary Teegee says that families have been pushing for this for decades.
And so in order for us to get to the table, if you will, we need to be strong, we need to speak up, and we need to just demand our rightful place in ensuring that the healing of our nations happens. And it's not just something that's going to be given.
Just over the ridge line here where I'm pointing. And that, of course, there's a massive fireball.
Another story from Prince George was the Clayton Tenay announcing that multinational pipeline company, Enbridge, was no longer welcome on the territory. The First Nation in Enbridge had been in negotiations to settle after a natural gas pipeline explosion in 2018 led to the evacuation of Clayton communities. Malcolm McPherson, Clayton Tenay legal counsel, stated they ended negotiations and want Enbridge out. The company responded to APTN with an email statement that they still hope to find a settlement.
We're done playing the finger-pointing game. Enbridge, you're a multinational corporation. Canada and BC, you're both the Crown. It's supposed to be a Crown undivided. Get in the room together, and then if you are truly committed to UNDRIP, do the right thing and stop playing this silly shell game, which is not serving anyone's interest.
More land disputes dominated the headlines in British Columbia. Since May of 2020, environmental groups have been blocking logging roads into an area known as Fairy Creek near Port Renfrew, after they learned old-growth logging would be taking place there. This April, Surrey-based logging company Teal Jones was granted an injunction to access Tree Farm License 46 on Vancouver Island. Fairy Creek is an included area. The land is on Pacheedaht traditional territory, and the First Nation has a revenue-sharing agreement with the company. They asked those protesting to leave, but one of the leaders in Fairy Creek, Elder William Jones, invited more people to join the protest. They set up more blockades. The first arrests for violating the injunction started in May.
We're here to stand for the people who have lived on these lands for generations. The government and industry are trying to take our lands from us, and it's ours. So we're here to stand up.
The old-growth dispute in Fairy Creek continues, with nearly 1,200 arrested. In June, after the discovery of unmarked graves at former Kamloops Residential School, there were multiple church burnings in the interior of BC, Gitwangak, and Vancouver Island. And Prince Rupert on Canada Day, a rally in honor of the children who did not make it home from residential school, was held by survivors, healers, artists, and local leaders. Then a sea of orange marched through the streets of Prince Rupert. Tsimshian artist Leanna Spence says they can make the day honoring residential school survivors a yearly event.
This day is about mourning all the mass graves that they're finding every day, and honoring and thanking our survivors that made it possible for people like me to be here.
This summer, Gitxsan hereditary chiefs set up a blockade on a logging road to protect their territory from potential clear-cutting. Regional forestry workers initially came to remove the gate, but they were turned away. The province of BC announced they were pausing forestry operations in the area as all parties talked.
It's our next move in this fight that we've been going on for the last 150 years, basically, but it's also just for our own healing and for our own peace.
In the fall, the Wet'suwet'en Coastal GasLink pipeline conflict started building again. For the last 2 years, RCMP have enforced a BC Supreme Court injunction that allows CGL to operate in the area. The pipeline has 20 signed agreements with First Nation bands along the route, but the Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs remain opposed. The Gidimt'en clan and their supporters set up blockades to protect their headwaters. In November, Wet'suwet'en hereditary chief Wass of the Gidimt'en clan issued an evacuation order to Coastal GasLink and blockaded a road on the territory. Coastal GasLink stated they had about 500 workers trapped in the camps. The RCMP raided the camps for the third consecutive year, with over 30 arrests. Slato, a spokesperson, says the camps will remain to uphold Wet'suwet'en law.
And the fact that the Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs and the Gigsan hereditary chiefs had title and never extinguished their title, what that means is that we still have title to the land, and that we are the decision makers, that our clan system and our decision-making system within that land governance is the decision-making body.
Lee Wilson, APTN National News, Kitimat.
Certainly was a busy year in BC. Well, new data shows that while the overall number of people incarcerated in Canada is falling, the number of Indigenous people in the prison system is rising. APTN's Fraser Needham reports.
The numbers are staggering. Indigenous women are on track to make up 50% of Canada's female prison population. This is 10 times greater than their representation of the general population. The data is included in a new statement by correctional investigator Ivan Zinger. Ontario Senator Kim Pate says something has to change.
It's beyond a crisis. I don't know what's worse than a crisis, a catastrophe, a disaster. Certainly it underscores the travesties that give rise to Indigenous women in particular being the fastest growing prison population, but also still more likely to go missing, be murdered, disappeared, end up on the streets than they are to get a high school, let alone a post-secondary education. That should not be true in this country.
In past reports, the correctional investigator has made recommendations to reduce the number of Indigenous people incarcerated. Suggestions such as appointing a deputy commissioner for Indigenous corrections have been ignored so far. Kim Bodé of the Congress of Aboriginal Peoples says part of the problem is the correction system itself has no incentive to change.
You know, when you got Correction Services Canada with their massive budget at $3.1 billion, you've got policing, for example, at $20 billion per year, this per year, and then you've got other growths in terms of other areas. I mean, if you were an investor, this was a private company and you're investing into Correction Services Canada, you'd be getting a phenomenal return on the backs of Indigenous people.
Pate says reform needs to be based more on the causes of why so many Indigenous people are ending up in prison.
We need to look at who we're criminalizing and incarcerating, particularly for Indigenous women. We have to look at how many, 91% of them have histories of violence. Most of them, when they are convicted of a so-called violent offense, an assault or even murder, often are reacting to violence first done to them. And so when we know that context, it really behooves us to make, major change to address this.
Pate and other senators also say judges need to take into account the structural racism Indigenous people face during sentencing hearings. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Time for one more break, but there's still more news ahead, so stay with us. leave you tonight with a Christmas song written by the late pop star George Michael. Here it is, performed by Cree Métis artist Ashley Ghostkeeper. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Thanks so much for joining us. Daryl Stranger will be back here tomorrow with more news. Have a great night.
Last Christmas, I gave you my heart, but the very next day, you gave it away. This year, to save me from tears, I gave it to someone special. Once bitten and twice shy. I keep my distance, but you still catch my eye. Tell me, baby, do you recognize me? Well, it's been a year. Doesn't surprise me. Merry Christmas. I wrapped it up and sent it with a note saying I love you. I meant it. Wow, I know what a fool I've been. Last Christmas, I gave you my heart, but the very next day, you gave it away. This year, to save me from tears, I'll give it to someone special, special. Crowded room, friends with tired eyes. I'm hiding from you and your soul of ice. My God, I thought you were someone to rely on. Me, I guess I was a shoulder to cry on. Face on a lover with the fire in his heart. Man undercover, but you tore me apart. My God, found real love. You're never gonna fool me again. Last Christmas, I gave you my heart, but the very next day, you gave it away. This year, to save me from tears, I'll give it to someone special, special. Face on a lover with the fire in his heart. Man undercover, but you tore me apart. Maybe next year I'll give it to someone. I'll give it to someone special, special.